Good evening all, welcome back to another Monday night live stream. This one, I'm going to gloat a bit, actually no, I'm not going to rub it in. As you can see from the thumbnail, as you can see from my beautiful sort of jewellery and attire here, I had a rather successful weekend. So yeah, I thought I'd ruffle my feathers a little bit and brag a bit, because I never win anything. You all know how bad my dice rolling is generally, but I had a pretty good weekend, all things considered. So yeah, I thought I'd rock the merch. I'd have a bit of the merch on. I'd have the belt ready to go. It absolutely weighs a ton. It is, as you can see, it is quite an impressive bit of kit. It has on there GODTEAR Creator Clash Champion of the Champions, I should say. We have the Hellstorm Wargaming channel logo on here. Massive thank you to Mikey and Elliot and Louis and Georgie, all from Hellstorm Wargaming. If you don't watch their content, why not? Head over there and give them a subscribe. Their coverage of the weekend was fantastic. Super nice people to spend some time with as well. And then, of course, we also have the Steam Force Games logo on there as well. And we had Richard. We had... Who else did we have? We had Stewie. We had Louis. We had Luke, I think it was. We also had Steve as well, the sort of lead developer of the game. They were all there at the weekend. Really, really super nice weekend. Lovely. Oh, let me move this out the way because it's going to get really blooming heavy. Oh, super nice folks to spend the weekend with, on top of all the other the content creators and stuff as well. So we'll get to them later. Anyway, Busey saying you need to clean the fingerprints off. It's not fingerprints off, mate. It's kind of like it's whatever it is on the front has kind of like a bit of a tarnished look to it. I think it's intentional, but that's pretty cool. And I need to find a place to put it now. I don't know where it's going to go. It needs pride of place in the studio here somewhere. We'll find a way to get it mounted on the wall or something like that. But let's start the chat by saying hello to the folks that we've got in the chat tonight. There's a nice little bunch of you in nice and early there. Super Pumpkin Man was in nice and early there. Good morning, he said to everyone. Ortega, hello in the rerun, fella. Phil Wilkinson, thank you for the congratulations. Blizzards, hello to you as well. Dave Mackay, he says, I hope the belt is in pride of place on the shelf in the background. Well, I had to kind of flex it a little bit today, mate, didn't I? Al Cluley, hello to you. Type 40 Taurus. Andy Al saying, get in Andy, way to bring it like a boss. Tonight's chat, well, what I'm going to be talking about is I'm going to be talking about the event. It was kind of like I would have talked about the event regardless of whether I won or not, because actually I was looking forward to it. But I want to kind of reflect on it. I mean, it was super nice to get invited. I was there with a lot of kind of creators who have much bigger kind of followings than I do, and it was nice to be invited, first of all, and spend the weekend with them. Second of all, it was obviously very nice to win it, but I kind of got like... It's given me a lot to think about over the weekend, I think, after the event, about my attitudes towards events, my attitudes towards content creation, my things about like how I prepped for the game, because I generally, here's a little secret, I generally don't really prep when I play games or when I go to tournaments. And we'll come on to all of that kind of stuff in a bit. I am a competitive gamer, and I love playing in events. But I'm not into list building, all that kind of stuff. I generally don't put the prep in. I never play enough games. But for this one was a bit different. So we'll be chatting about all that tonight as well, and about what I think, what's the next step for this kind of creator clash and other folks and stuff. And we'll also be chatting about all manner of other things too. Where we at? Scott Latham, he says, ready for the Champions Walk. If I had a bit more space, mate, I'd be giving the old Conor McGregor down here, I would. Busey saying, winner, chicken and bacon dinner. I'll tell you what, mate, bacon might have been my secret weapon. We'll come on to that later on. VJ, good morning to you. Major Tom, good evening, Ed. How you doing? Super Pumpkin Man's painting his summer challenge today. Well, let's have a work down the list here. Type 40 TARDIS is trying to finish the second of 3 complete Monpox factions this month, basing the 20 I painted last night. Wow, that's some going, that, mate. Christian Reeves, hello, fella. How you doing? Love keeping up with your new cooking escapades is the word I was trying to say. Colin Wakeland, good evening to you. Barry Kleiber, howdy, sir. Nice to see you in tonight. Wayne Haywood, good evening. Luke Pryor, seeing house tricks. Tricks are pretty cool, man. Making this up as I go. David Milano, he says, greetings, hello to you as well, fella. Champ is in the house. It's good to be gangster. I tell you what, mate, I get to be gangster once, I think, in my life, and that was it. That was it. Ed says, how did you not open with the champ is here? I could have started with the old Conor McGregor. I'd like to apologise. It's an absolute... I'm not going to swear. Frantic, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Super Pumpkin Man says, it's 108 degrees in West Texas and I am not going outside today. If you want to send some of that warm weather this way, mate, it would be much appreciated. Andrew Fairbanks says he's gone Martian Lynch in the stream. Sit there for 5 minutes and only say, I'm only here so I don't get fined. Yeah, I think the silence was more, I don't really know how to start it, so I think the best thing I can do is just look a bit smug. I think that was the best way to do it. Busey says, I thought it was a cheap plastic belt. It looks like it's made from solid gold. It weighs an absolute ton, mate. As I said before, these bits on the side they are metal. Like, it's a heavy old thing. Like, it certainly wouldn't want to. It wouldn't want to drop on your toe, mate. That's for sure. Let's have a little look here. Where are we up to? Oh yeah, it's Busey saying, yeah, I thought it was a cheap plastic belt. Yeah, no, not at all, mate. Hellstorm Louis, hello, mate. How are you doing? Nice to see you in the chat, and hello to your dog as well. He said it was a pleasure hosting you, mate. Well deserved winner. I'll kind of come on to it. After the first game, I felt a little bit guilty actually winning the first game. But yeah, we'll come on to it later on a little bit. Players in Exile says, now you've won, you'll never be invited back. I have to come back. I've got to come and defend my title. You can't not invite the champion back to the next one, can you? Catherine says, lovely to meet you this weekend. Glad you had a good time. It was lovely to meet you too, Kath. It's super nice to kind of, when I get to go somewhere a little bit different and you bump into people who kind of watch the streams and stuff like that, and seeing yourself and Andy, it was just nice to kind of see some friendly faces and have a little bit of a chat and stuff. Andy even had his BlackJack Legacy t-shirt on as well, which was that was what I noticed first. I was kind of hovering around where the drinks and stuff was, and I thought, that guy's got one of my t-shirts on, which was quite nice to see. So it was lovely to meet you both, and I hope you had a lovely weekend of Legion as well. Vijay says he's going to have to try that on for a photo when he gets here. Absolutely, mate, you do. Simon Dave, hello, mate, how you doing? It's going very well, thank you very much. Tyler Peck, nice to see you as well, buddy. Christian says, when do you go back to defend the title? There was no talk, mate, of a repeat, I don't think. Certainly not in the near future anywhere, but I'm happy to kind of to try and defend my title should there be one. Luke says, have you been strutting around the house with it on since you got back? I did. No, I'd like to say I have. I did kind of pause a little bit this morning, mine, to get the thumbnail photos. You don't want to know how many different photos I took before I decided on one that looked a combination of acceptable and not make me look completely like a prick. So yeah, it was good. Type 40 TARDIS says, I'd be sleeping with that belt on. It's just a little bit uncomfortable, mate, when you try and roll over. I tried it on Saturday night, and to be fair, I think I just got wedged in the bed a little bit. Andrew saying, prep for the event by chugging a 6-pack. Well, do you know, like I said before, I tend not to prep for it. Like, even when I go to kind of tournaments and stuff, for me, they're generally a bit of a weekend away gaming. But for this one, I'll come on to this later on, but I did not play enough games by any stretch. And I don't mind saying that outside of when I reviewed this game going back 2 years ago, I hadn't played any games with 3 champions versus 3 champions. All of my practice games, of which I think there were about 3 of them, were against folks that I was pretty much teaching for the first time. So we were kind of doing 1 champion versus 1 champion. So I'll come on to what my preparation was a bit later on. let me find the chat. We'll see where we're up to here because it's jumping around. Plenty of chat tonight. That's what I like to see. Tony Booth Leiden, he says, I can smell what the Geordie Rock is cooking. Bacon. I think we can get a t-shirt with that, can't we? I can smell the bacon cooking. VG says, I'd love to hear from Lou. Find out if the champ title has given him a big head around the house. I think Lou actually said, I'm just glad it's all over and done with now. I am sick of hearing about GODTEAR. Warren Jones says, evening and congrats on the win. The games were great to watch. The content was fantastic. I was a bit tired yesterday after I got home and stuff. It had been a bit of a busy weekend, and I kind of we've got a bit of like a sofa thing in our, like, it's a bit like a spare room basically, but it's where the little one plays these video games and stuff like that, and it's where I paint my miniatures. And I kind of flopped myself on the sofa and I put the stream on to just to watch it back really and see what the content was like, to see it from the other side really, and just and see what it was. And Louis and Mikey did a fantastic job of it, and it was really interesting actually to see the games back. Even though I knew the result, I was watching it thinking, how the hell did I get out of this? How did I manage to get a win in this game? And that was on both of them, to be fair. So yeah, it was interesting to watch it back with, like, sort of, even knowing that what the result was, I didn't remember doing half of that stuff. What's the other creators going to do? You'll do nothing. Jez Hunter says, nice bit of metal work. He's a wrecking machine. Scott says, great hosting Hellstorm. Yes, it actually, Hellstorm, yeah. It was great to watch them streaming. Big up to you, mate. Yeah. Ed says, I'd have queued up the Strauss and given the full Ric Flair. I'm not a big wrestling fan, mate, to be fair. The wrestling gets a bit lost on me. I'm more into the boxing than MMA, though, fair. Cardos, hello to you. He says, congrats on the win. Greg saying, what's next, Jake Paul? I'm not sure what Jake Paul's like on GODTEAR, but I'm sure he likes a challenge. We're going to always shout him out. Luke says, where can you watch the games? The games are available on Hellstorm Wargaming. There was 3 games on the day. The first game of the day was was Kirioth and Discourse Miniatures. They played the first game. The second game was myself and Mikey from Hellstorm. We played together, and then, because I'd won 2 games by that point, it was the final clash. So I was on the stream a second time as well and played against Pleasant Kenobi in the final. So I was quite fortunate. I got 2 of the 3 streams. Michael Cowan says, hello, long time no stream watch. Congrats on the win. Thank you very much, sir. I'm very well. Andrew says, Andy got thrown out after the event. He kept asking everyone's name and then interrupting them and saying, it doesn't matter what your name is. And so Punkaman says, is it me or does it feel smug in here? It is getting a little bit smug. I can feel it coming in. Christian sharing the link there for supporting the Patreon. Thank you very much. Just to make you all aware, I did not make any money from winning this event, so yeah, I still do need Patreon and support. Thank you very much. Luke says, cool, he's found it now. I'll have to on in the background tomorrow while working. It was a really cool stream. The guys did a fantastic job. Absolutely kind of loved listening back to the chatter and stuff like that, even if Louis did want want Elliot to win, but I'll forgive you for that one, mate. I'd have been rooting for my mates as well. Andrew says, you coach Discourse up, so I feel like you can take credit for her wins too. She's not as sort of, how's the phrase go? She's not as green as she's cabbage looking. She knows what she was doing as well. She didn't spend any time painting her miniatures, so she must have had more practice games. And Ed saying there, I'm a much bigger MMA fan than a wrestling fan, to be fair, but Flair is a classic. Showing my age a bit there, though. I think when I was a kid, like, we were from quite a poor background. We couldn't afford Sky. When all the other kids were telling me all about WWE, I'd never seen any wrestling. So that was it. Yeah, Vijay says, Pleasant Kenobi, better than being unpleasant Kenobi. Pleasant Kenobi, or Vince as he is, as he was christened, is a super nice guy. He's quite big in the Magic the Gathering world. I think he's kind of up there, 100,000 subscribers. So I think he might have been, if not the biggest, he was certainly in the top 2 of the biggest biggest sort of numbers-wise creators that were there at the weekend. But Vince was super, super nice. We had a good chat on the Friday evening. We kind of sat together and had a couple of sort of drinks and stuff and just chatted all things gaming and YouTube and everything else, as you do when those kind of folks get together. And then it was really nice to be able to play him as well on the last game. He was super tired by the end of the day, had a bit of a headache I think as well. He was taking paracetamol before the game, and I did say we'd have to get him drug tested if he won. But I think it was a real brain burner of a day. Super, super nice. And Andrew says, oh, woo. So yeah, I think what we'll do, we got a nice little gang in tonight, haven't we? Peter Cooman, hello to you, buddy. How are you doing? Michael says WWF. Back then, it was the same. I knew wrestling through this and collector's cards, not from watching it. Frantic says, was your brain fried after the final? It was super. How can I put it? When I play like a miniatures game, like generally, like if it's a bit more of an army game, what I would say is you never feel like every single thing you do has a consequence, or every single thing that you don't do has a consequence. But with GODTEAR, you absolutely did, and I think the rules are super simple to get to sort of to absorb into your head, which was brilliant for this weekend. And it's the tactics, it's the synergies, it's understanding what the other champions do, what the other followers do, what each of the different scenarios and how they play. There's a lot to think about, and you can get that analysis paralysis moments of, well, I could do this or I could do that, and there is an optimal way, I guess, once you kind of know the game inside out, of like, well, I should always, if I've got this set of champions, I should always activate this first and do that kind of thing. But it was a game where we were constantly like, we were kind of, to put a bit of a cliche on it, we were asking questions of each other. So sort of Vince would do something and I would think, oh, like, damn, that's foiled my plan. So then I would react a different way to what I'd originally planned, and I would do something he wasn't expecting, and that would put him on the back foot. And it was that real kind of sort of battle of sort of almost who misses an opportunity first, whose dice don't go for them, kind of who doesn't see the kind of like the path to glory, if you like. And it was, I had a plan, if you like, as in like I knew the things that my champions could do, and I wasn't well versed enough on some of the stuff that he could do, and that was one of the things that caught me out in the first game as well. But we'll go on to that one. Andrew says, I was there in the end, Andy. Well, almost the end. I had to switch the phone to Coco Melon for the kids to watch. I did see your name pop up in the chat, mate. It was nice to see it. Camo, good morning to you. VJ saying, analysis paralysis is my middle name. He says, that's why I love games that you can't plan too much and with changing objectives like Blitzball. Yeah, I think it's a game that I think, especially when you're new, it is easy to kind of overthink it, but sometimes just going in strong and just committing to it, like, and rolling some dice, it makes it super fun. I will say, for all it was kind of like a bit of a brain burner, it was a ton of fun. Really, really enjoyed it. So so I think we might as well have a little bit of a chat about it and stuff. So I'll kind of talk about through the day. We had, obviously, there was 8 different creators that were there. There was myself, there was Quipster Nerd, there was Silver Paints, there was Kerry, or K-Legs as she's known on Instagram, there was Pleasant Kenobi, there was Kirioth, there was Discourse Miniatures, and there was Elliot from Hellstorm Wargaming, I should say. And the plan was basically, because there's 8 of us, everybody plays the first game. There's 4 people have won and 4 people have lost. So those 4 winners basically pair off into 2-2s. That means that at the end of the second round, there's only 2 people who've won both of their games. And those 2 will play in the last game, and that's how it was that's how it was decided. Barry Clever, thank you very much, mate. He says, for the repeat champions war chest, congratulations. Thank you very much, sir. I will certainly treat myself to a sneaky little congratulations tipple with that one. Thank you. So that was how the kind of day was planned. The rounds were planned for 2 hours each. I think if Louis is still in the chat there, he'll agree as well that 2 hours probably wasn't long enough. And that was more to do with the fact is that 2 hours included the setup time. It included a bunch of content creators taking pictures and chatting and kind of doing all of that kind of thing. And it also included the fact that we were all relatively new to the game. We didn't really kind of know it inside out, and so there was a lot of analysis paralysis when it come to kind of some decision making. And so I think 2 hours kind of made it a little bit tight. So at first game of the day, I was playing against Quipster Nerd. Super nice guy. Met him on the Friday night when I first got there. Had a bit of a chat. Really lovely guy. Very much into his 40k stuff. Plays his games like down at Bad Moon Cafe, which is absolutely a fantastic sort of gaming place. Would love to go and visit. I've seen lots of pictures online, but never actually been there. But his painting is one of the things he's known for, and his miniatures were absolutely beautiful. He actually went on to win the best painted sort of champions at the weekend, and it was a pleasure to play against his stuff. They were absolutely beautiful on the tabletop. But yeah, super nice guy, really kind of obviously new to the game, same as the rest of us, but really clear with like kind of our chat backwards and forwards. We had a good laugh. We kind of did some video stuff together and things, and it was a fun game. I felt like I took turn 1 and won 1 point. I then I took turn 2 as well and took 2 points. And I was looking pretty good for turn 3, and I was going to basically, that would have been me 6-0, game over kind of things. VJ saying, is there any way we can see pictures of everyone's painted minis? I know there was lots of photographs taken, mate. As soon as I find out where the images are, mate, I'll send some links out to people and stuff. But certainly the Steamforge guys took pictures of everyone's miniatures at the end of the day. So yeah, I was all kind of set up for turn 3. I thought I kind of had it in the bag, and then he had one of his champions is called Shale, and Shale had this ability which I didn't know about. That was my own kind of not learning that kind of stuff. Had this an ultimate ability that each champion has, an ultimate ability they can do once per game, which allowed him to pick up a hex and move it somewhere else. And actually what he did was he picked up a hex that had my banner on it that he couldn't get to because I'd blocked it all off, because that was part of my plan. He basically picked it up, he moved it next to where he was, and then he kind of walked over the banner and crushed it, which was enough to swing the game. I think he won that kind of battle ladder by 1 point by crushing my banner. It was just enough to do it. And I'd felt up until I think it was the last move of the game, and it was super, super clever. I didn't expect it. I didn't know about it. And had I known so, I might have done some things differently. But that was on me. That was my bad. We basically were told that basically like time was out. It's kind of we need to finish the game, and so we thought we'd played out a draw. I had 1 point plus the 2 points from the second turn, which put me on 3. He won 3 points for the third turn. That's how GODTEAR works. So we thought it was a draw. We thought it was 3-3, and that was it. And so basically we kind of said, well, that's it, there's a draw. I thought, well, my ambitions of glory are over and done with now, but I've had a really fun game. I've got my head around it a little bit now. I'm going to enjoy the next 2 games. Then what happened was the lead developer, Steve Margetson, basically said there are no ties in GODTEAR. You can't have a draw. There's basically, if you go into the tournament pack, there's a decider. There's a way to find out whoever kind of sort of wins the game. And essentially the decider is that when you call dice down, you see who has the most victory points. We both had 3, so that didn't kind of clear it. And then the next tiebreaker is essentially you play out, you call dice down and you play out that activation. Then what you do is you compare points. We both had 3. So what you do is you resolve it on wherever the battle ladder, the token is on the battle ladder at that point in time. Now, because I'd lost turn 3, that would have meant that I can choose to go first in the next turn, and the token starts with the on my side of the battle ladder. So at the point where the game was called, the token was on my side of the battle ladder, and therefore I won. And I wasn't overly keen on the fact that the way that this was decided as a tiebreaker. It felt a little bit uncomfortable. Personally speaking, I think maybe if it's a tie at that point, the next tiebreaker decider should probably be who's won the most rounds. Now that still would have been me, but at least I would have said, well, I won turn 1 and I won turn 2 and you won turn 3. So at least it would have felt like I'd had the better balance of the game, if you like. But the way it was decided, it kind of like, it's the rules, and I completely understand it. And I think had we known that beforehand, we might have played a bit differently and stuff. But those were the rules. That was how it was. So I actually won the first game. Quipster was super cool about it. I'm sure he was disappointed, but that's kind of like that was the rules on the day. Second game, I then played Elliot. And second game, we played this one live on stream, so you can go and watch this. I apologise if there's any spoilers here, but I guess by this point you know that I won. And Elliot, again, new to the game, kind of knew a little bit about what my stuff did. I knew a bit about what his stuff did. The only one I wasn't sure about was Helena, and she's the one that basically, she doesn't have a banner to plant. She stands on a hex and is the banner essentially. So what her trick is, she kind of runs onto the hex at the last activation of the game, and there's nothing you can do about it. The banner is there for the end of the game, kind of thing. And it was a super tight game. I think in the first turn when I think I one-shotted Rangosh into Titus, and I was trying to soften him up for the next turn. I didn't need the extra points at that point in time, but I was trying to chip some wounds off him for the next turn, and I ended up killing him in the first turn. So that it didn't unsettle me a little bit, but my plans had to change a little bit. But I kind of stuck at the plan. I knew what I was doing. And it kind of paid off in the long run. I won all three of the rounds, which put me 6 points up. It's first to 5. That was me. I'd won that second game. It sounds like a whitewash, but it wasn't. It's not like I was winning with the turn token like right at the other end of the battle ladder. It was like 1 or 2 points difference each turn, and it was super close. But that's what makes the game fun. And then last round, I played against Pleasant Kenobi. By this point, I was tired. My brain was fried. It had been quite a long day as well because the rounds were going a little bit long. Pleasant Kenobi actually won his second game against Discourse Miniatures in much the same fashion that I won my first game, with that kind of tiebreaker. So he was a bit like, I kind of felt a little bit wrong a little bit. But we both won 2 games with similar kind of routes to the final, if you like. And so we were up against each other, and it was a really tough game. Pleasant Kenobi, or Vince, hadn't played the game very much either, the same as the rest of us, but he is a really, really good Magic the Gathering player, and he can kind of look at cards and see the interactions and understands the kind of like the intricacies of synergies between cards. And he obviously had some good plans. He'd played a few games beforehand with Mikey from Hellstorm Online. So he put some decent prep in, and it was a super close game all the way through. I won the first round, then he won the second round, and then I won the third round, which put me 4-2 up. And we were actually running out of time. And what the guys on the stream, I now know, watching this back, I didn't know it at the time, I now know that the guys on the stream had said, if we call the game now, if we go dice down, basically Andy wins. He's got the 4 points. So when we do it on the first tiebreaker of like basically of dice down, Andy's got 4 victory points, Vince has got 2, Andy wins. If we went to the second tiebreaker and basically wherever it is on the battle ladder kind of thing, Vince would take that second round, which would give him 2 points. Was it? How would that work? I forget what it was now, but I think basically if they put dice down, I still would have won. So they didn't tell us that we were running out of time. They basically said we had time to play it, and they decided to kind of, because it was the final, they would play the game out to its full conclusion, because on a tiebreaker like that wouldn't have been a great way to kind of to end the game. And as it happened, so we got down to the 4th round. If Vince won the round 4, that would have put him on 4 points as well, and we would have went to round 5. If I won round 4, I'd have gone to 6 points, and I'd have won the game. And that's what happened basically. So it didn't need a tiebreaker, but had it gone to tiebreaker at time, I kind of still would have won, which wouldn't have been a nice way to win it. I'm glad we managed to play the game out. But the game was just, it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. Now, when it comes to actually like, in fact, let me just, I want to kind of press something there, and I might actually, let me think about it. I might clip this bit out later on for a little bit of a kind of chat about it, about my prep for the tournament. So when I actually prepped for the event, I didn't play nearly enough games. I basically, I knew I knew I was short on time to actually get games in. There's nobody really kind of like sort of locally was playing the game. It's not my wife's kind of thing. One of my sons was finished uni for the summer, and he came up, and I had to teach him how to play a game kind of thing. So we played one champion versus one champion. And then kind of it took a while to doing the teaching of the game, and I said, do you want another game now? And he went, oh no, I've had enough now. So that was the one game I'd kind of played, which was one champion versus one champion. The next morning I got up early and I kind of played a game on my own, just moving some things around to try and understand how things, it's okay reading them on cards, but trying to understand how things operated. And me and my son kind of chatted through a few things on that morning, but we didn't play any more games. And at that point, I'd kind of picked my 4 champions, which was Rangosh, Kaelin, Grimgut, and Wraith Marid. There was the other ones that were in the mix at that particular time. Was I was fortunate to get Jack, who is the new champion. And I felt a little bit bad because he's not out until the end of this month. For all the other creators had an opportunity to ask for him if they wanted to. I just felt it was bad that if I'd won the event with a champion that wasn't available yet and people didn't know what he did, it would maybe look like it was a kind of a little bit overpowered or unbalanced, and it wasn't very fair. So I didn't actually. I decided not to use that. I had thought about using Rodri, who is a Guardian champion, and basically protects his banner, but he was a little bit too slow, and Grimgut's not very fast, and I'd enjoyed using him. He was fun. Grimgut was a little bit slow as well, and so I didn't want two kind of slow things together in the list of 4, if you like. So basically, I kind of narrowed it down a little bit. Again, I tried some other bits. I tried Skullbreaker. What I found was from my very, very short kind of just testing a few things out, it felt like they were kind of the ones that I wanted to go with. My other son, Adam, who's also at university, I'd been chatting to him, kind of like texting stuff about the game, and he agreed to play a tabletop simulator game with me one night. So my wife was going out with one of our friends. I put the little one to bed. Like, he got to bed about 9 o'clock. I went online and played on Tabletop Simulator against Adam, and to be fair, I was learning how to use Tabletop Simulator, the modification, at the same time as well. So that we only played, I think we played 2 champions against each other. We might have still only played. Oh, we might have only played 1 champion against each other again, and I was teaching him how to play as well, and he was teaching me how to use Tabletop Simulator. So again, it was a bit of a long game, and we didn't but it was a little bit more practicing anyway. So and then I played. Obviously, everybody saw I played the game with Discourse Miniatures on the live stream as well, which was 2 champions versus 2 champions. So up until the point where I'd played against Discourse, I'd only played 2 1 champion versus 1 champion games. So Andrew Fairbanks was just saying, you'd be surprised how much the games in which you were teaching probably helped. They absolutely kind of got the basic rules into my head. I wasn't checking any rules. I knew kind of like what to do. I did manage to play some different scenarios in those 3 games as well, which really helped me to kind of see some of the scenarios in action. But the thing that I would say kind of helped me the most, because I was painting my champions to try and get them ready for the event and stuff, so I didn't really have time to kind of to spend too much time on it. But what I did was, and I'm just going to kind of let me just bring something up here, and I'm going to show you all. I spent a lot of time listening to the Banner Bearers podcast. So some of you wise folks will see my name there at the bottom. And I was interviewed by the guys from the Banner Bearers, just kind of talking about the Creator Clash. But I had been listening to it prior to being on that channel, on that episode, and they've got some really, really good episodes. They've got an episode which is all about the different Maelstrom champions, one all about the Shapers, one all about the Slayers, one all about the Guardians, and one about the scenarios. And they basically, I had those almost on loop, just listening to them while I was painting. I was listening to them when I was going to bed. I was listening to them when I was out in the car, and just trying to kind of absorb as much information about what all of the different champions did, to try and give me some experience and some knowledge to retain, because I knew I wouldn't be able to get the game time in to be able to kind of play it. So I found that was super helpful. And then at the point where when I'd finished painting my stuff with about 2 days left to go, I then went, and again, some good research here. There's a webpage called Objective Hex. And a guy called Grumpy Son, as he's known on the Discord channels, has put together a list of like guides to different champions, scenario breakdown information, sort of like for all these guides to certain champions, but there's also sort of guides on how to deal with certain champions. There was some information about kind of like how to set up. What's the best way? Should you go first? Should you go second? Should you throw the first turn in order to set up for the second turn? That kind of things. Lots and lots of information here. So I basically spent the last day before I went to the event kind of absorbing as much information as I could and looking at what I thought would be good and bad matchups for the champions that I had. And what that allowed me to do was, when you see the penalty kicks at the end of the World Cup and stuff, and the goalkeeper has all of these kind of information on the side of a water bottle saying this player always kind of goes to the right and stuff, I made myself some little kind of cheat sheets as well, which basically said, right, this champion, like for example, let's say Grimgut. Grimgut was on. I've got if. When you come to play the game, if your opponent has these champions, don't put Grimgut on the board. Like he's not as kind of good into them. If he or she puts these champions on the board, these ones are a good matchup for Grimgut. So kind of try and direct them there. And it was a case of if I could get the choice to go first or second, if I won the roll off, then it was a case of go second, let your opponent place a champion, and then try and pick the right matchups to try and give you the best kind of start to the game. And I think first game of the day, I didn't really know what some of Quipster's stuff did. It hadn't all kind of sort of come back to me a little bit, and I was probably getting a bit flustered. But I set up okay. Second game against Mikey, I think against Elliot, I think I set up pretty good, I'll be honest, in that one, I think, and that was a good thing from the start of the game. And then in the third game against Vince, I think he won the role and chose to go second, which meant I had to set up first. Oh no, or maybe not. No, he decided to go first, so I still got to kind of pick the right matchups a little bit. And I think they kind of, without the knowledge of the game in depth, I think being able to at least have enough knowledge to not set up at the start into an unplayable kind of situation without knowing what everybody does, I think that kind of helped me. So yeah, for all I managed to kind of win the event, I people were kind of saying, "Oh, you're the favourite. You've had this for ages and stuff. You've played more games than anyone else." I hand on heart absolutely swear I played it a bit when I reviewed it back 2 years ago. Lockdown happened, didn't play any games for like 2 years. And when I got invited to this event, I obviously started kind of reading up again. But again, I think I only played 3 games before the event, and none of them were 3 champions versus 3 champions. So that's not me trying to kind of boast or flex or anything like that. It's just a case of like, it just goes to show it's more about the preparation that you put in. And game time is always the best thing to do, but I think just prepping in general is the way. And it's made me think quite differently about how I kind of prep for events and stuff. And that there is information out there and kind of creators that are out there that they're putting in some hard work to create some of this content, and it might not always be the most popular content, but it's invaluable. Like if you like those kind of games, support those creators, support those podcasters, support those blog writers, because without them, I certainly wouldn't have been bringing home this belt this weekend. Let's have a little look here and see what we've got. VJ saying, given the number of round bait there, let me just come back to here. VJ saying, given the round-based number scoring system, you're going to get a lot of draws. You're not going to get a lot of draws, mate, to be fair, because the way it works is that basically you'll only get a draw if you dice down kind of at the end of round 3 or potentially at the end of round 4. But the idea is you don't dice down. The game's fast enough that you should be able to play it out. I think especially with Quipster, the game, we did quite a bit of social media stuff at the start and stuff. He's big on Instagram, and he was kind of taking a lot of pictures, and we kind of did some stuff, and we were chatting. And I don't think we really had an eye on the time. The second game we played within the 2 hours. That was absolutely fine. The third game, if you take it from the point where we start deploying models, we played within the 2 hours as well, but because there was a really nice fancy kind of sculpted board for the final, it was really difficult. I think it was actually a little bit bigger than a standard board, and we had a little bit of struggle to kind of get the objective hexes in the right place and understand which were their deployment zones. So this delayed us a bit at the start of the game. And actually, I think if you go to the video and take it from the time when we start deploying, I think the game was finished in under 2 hours. Yeah, James Dom, hello mate, how you doing? He said he was able to catch a few minutes of the game against Elliot. Congrats on the win. Thank you very much. Yoakum, good evening to you, buddy. How you doing? Lee Russ, hello. He said he's late to the party, was in the podcast recording. Look forward to listening to it, mate. He says, well done again for your result of the weekend. Thank you ever so much. Andrew says, you'd be surprised how much games we're teaching probably helped. Yeah, like I say, I think it gave me enough knowledge to have the rules absolutely nailed down. And just allowed me to think about the tactics rather than thinking about how the game played. VJ saying, just saw the picture of the new Empire of Dust army. Nice. Yeah, there. And some nice skeletons there, man. There. VJ said, I found Tabletop Simulator pretty easy to use when we played Blitzball on it. Yeah, to be honest, mate, it's pretty easy to use on GODTEAR as well. It's just more a case of like understanding. Like I never remember how to kind of sort of how to change the wound counters, which like how to. Sort of flip cards and all this kind of stuff, and just kind of like having to remember it all the time. VJ says, why am I mentally picturing you listening to these podcasts while training Rocky style? If Rocky was training by painting miniatures, mate, that's exactly how it was. And VJ says, I thought it was a 3-turn game. No, it's not basically, mate. It's a 5-turn game in total. So the way it works is the first round you score 1 victory point. In the second round, you score 2 victory points. In the third round, you score 3 victory points. Then in the fourth round, you score 2 victory points. And in the fifth round, you score 1. So if you win turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3, you've got 6 points. You've won because it's the first to 5 points. If you lose turn 1, but then win turn 2 and turn 3, you win because you've got 5 points, your opponent's got 1. If, like in the final, I won the first turn, Vince won the second turn, which put him 2-1 up. I won the third turn, which put me 4-2 up. Then basically the next turn, Vince had to win to put him 4-4, and then the last round would have been the decider. And so there's always basically kind of like there's a way to do it. So it's a maximum of 5 turns, rounds, a minimum of 3. So it's like you don't often get draws kind of thing. And the only reason that there was a kind of a draw, if you like, on points is because Quipster and I basically ran out of time at the end of round 3 when he just won round 3. So he had 3 points and I had 3 points. Yellow Belly Tabletop says, glad you crushed that tryhard Kenobi. Only Josh, and obviously well done, mate. I like the guy. I mean, I think sometimes people forget that, like, when it comes to Instagram and YouTube and Twitch and that kind of stuff, people do, like, they become more animated. They kind of play up to the camera. They're trying to entertain and stuff. But the people are not like that when you meet them. He is a super, super nice guy, and I would gladly kind of play a game with him again any day of the week. Moose is saying, good morning, legends, congrats again, thank you very much. He says, looking trendy today. I was flexing, mate, for those that are late to the party, mate. I was kind of doing my flex at the start of the stream. I was just kind of sitting, just purveying my empire and seeing how things were. So yes, that's why I'm looking like a 10-year-old boy at the minute, mate. God, that belt is heavy. Busey said, I'm glad the BlackJack Legacy magnetic dice worked well. When will they be available for us to buy? I tell you what, mate, if they were working, I'd have won the games a lot quicker. That's absolute sure. Yeah, I thought you cooked them in the oven. Yeah, put them in the microwave, mate, just warm them through a little bit. Camel says, I played in the Conquest tournament on Saturday. 2 losses and a win. Great, easy going, fun atmosphere. That's what it's all about, mate. Marco says, looking a bit like Fury. I think I look a bit like Fury when he's not in fight camp, when he's been on the beer for a bit. Lord Main says, please show us the minis. They're actually in the house at the minute, mate. They're not in the studio, but I'll get some pictures up on the Instagrams and on the Facebook and stuff later on. I guess, and I'll get some pictures of my very nice little box that I made as well to carry them in. Tyler says the champ is here. Andrew Fairbanks says, heavy bro, do you even lift? Not at all, mate. I definitely realised that this weekend I don't lift. I nearly put my back out just putting the belt over my shoulder. Dave Mackay says, think of the exercise you're getting lugging that belt about. Yeah, well, obviously I'm going to carry it everywhere now, and that's the whole point. Hellstone Wargaming, hello Mike, he says, champion. Thank you very much, mate, for an awesome weekend. I was just explaining that at the start of the stream as well. It was cool to be part of it, mate. Would love to do something with you guys again in the future. So yeah, let's not be strangers. Ice Moon says, congrats again on the win, Andy. Thank you very much. So Busey says, did you have bacon before the final? I actually had bacon before my second game, mate. That's how it actually panned out. So what happened was, I had my first game in the morning and I didn't have bacon. I'll be honest with you, I had a sausage butty from Greg's. I went for a bit of a walk around town and a little bit of a jog in the morning because I was up super early having a 5-year-old who knew my body clock would have me up at like 6:30 in the morning. So I went for a little wander around the kind of local town and stuff and called at Greg's on the way back, got myself a sausage butty and a cup of coffee, and then went and got showered and changed and stuff and ready for the day. And I probably wasn't in tip-top condition. I wasn't at my best, I would say, for first game. Then we stopped for lunch and we nipped next door to the local Wetherspoons. Speaking about nipping next door, Sanctuary Gaming, where it was played at, what an absolute super place. If you are ever in that local area of is it Ashton? I think it is, or Ash. Somebody will remind me. I forget if it's Ashton or Ashfield. I think it's Sutton and Ashton. I think, isn't it? It was an absolutely amazing place, really super nice, loads of space for players between tables. The cafe area was really kind of like top notch. Coffee was lovely. I had an Oreo milkshake just after lunchtime, which was absolutely beautiful. The donut selection was just to die for. I forget what the guy, Sutton and Ashfield, that's the one I was trying to remember the name, mate. Thank you. The guy that runs the place, I forget his name now, but super nice, dead chatty, really helpful. And they had a good selection of stuff as well for a purchase. So if you are ever in the area, please make sure to pop in and give Sanctuary Gaming a bit of love. But yes, we nipped next door to Wetherspoons. I didn't have 6 pints, mate. I had a Coke, I had a Pepsi Max actually. But I did have a chicken and bacon panini for my lunch. And I think it was the power of the bacon that probably propelled me into games 2 and 3 and gave me the mental fortitude to kind of to get through the day. I think if Vince and to be fair, I did sit with Elliot at lunchtime. We didn't know we were playing each other at the time. I sat with Elliot and Elliot had plenty of chicken. So maybe the chicken wasn't as powerful as the bacon was. Yeah, it was definitely the chicken and bacon combination, I think, is the one that did it. So yes, I did have bacon at lunchtime. Lord Nova saying congrats on the win. Thank you very much, buddy. Vicious bacon is Andy's spinach. Tasty Brain Drain says achieving victory by harnessing the power of bacon. You've just got to bring the bacon down, bring the magic pig forth, and he shall deliver. That's the way it works. Beauty saying 6 pints. No, never mind the mold lines. He's the bacon pistols. It's all about the bacon. So yes, the power of the bacon. And to be fair, I'll be honest, I left pretty early on the Sunday morning because I had to get home. I'd been away kind of for the weekend, and I was away the weekend before, and I'm away next weekend as well with one of my sons. So my wife Lou, super kind of supportive of all this stuff, but she had the little one all weekend on a Todd. So I said I'll kind of get up early. I think I only had 2 beers over dinner on the Saturday night. So I got up nice and early on the Saturday and headed off back north about 7 o'clock in the morning, I think it was. And I did stop off on the way back and get a cheeky bacon sandwich on the services and a cup of coffee. So yes, I think bacon has definitely pulled me through this weekend. Without the power of the pig, I think I'd have been suffering. But yeah, it was just a super sort of fun event, really nice, awesome people to play against. It was also from another perspective as well, when I was talking about from from my own content perspective, it was super nice to speak to people who also either do this for their full-time job or kind of do it very seriously. But they all cover different stuff to what I cover. So there's a lot of obviously 40k and AOS coverage from them, or painting GW miniatures, and if you like, and getting to hear the stuff that they do and how they go about it, and just kind of chatting that, because I'll be kind of honest, I've not been the best at kind of networking. It's not that I don't want to. I would love to network. I'm not really very good at reaching out to people, and especially when people are not making the same kind of content that I am, or covering the same games that I am. I always feel, well, why would they want to kind of do anything with me? So it was really nice to speak to the other content creators, understand some of the troubles that they have, some of the problems they face, and realize that you're not alone on it in those moments when you can't think of any ideas, when you kind of, your creativity's a bit low, or when you're when you're getting a little bit of flack for what would be perceived to be a clickbait title, you're not alone. Everybody goes through the same stuff, and it was cool to kind of chat. Andrew says it was nice to talk to people other than us. It was nice to leave the house, mate. I'll be honest. I don't get to leave the house much these days. These 4 walls here, I think I spend more time here than I do anywhere else, really. You might not always see the end result of the content, but I tell you what, I spend more time here than you'd imagine. But yeah, so it was super nice, and it kind of made me think about, I should probably kind of push myself a little bit more to get in touch with people. Like Discourse and I had a good laugh and a good chat when we met at UK Games Expo, and she was the only person I knew prior to this weekend, and I'd only known her for a week, to be fair. And we chatted about doing some stuff. She's going to come and do a live stream with me at some point. We'll do some stuff in the future. Kerry as well. It turned out Kerry, who is K-Legs on Instagram, please go and follow her stuff. Absolutely lovely girl. Does a lot of painting stuff and does a lot of does tournament type stuff. So she enjoys playing in 40k events. She's trying to do sort of more events, and she kind of talks about her experience in the events. But is super friendly, beautiful painter, really nice looking minis. And it turns out she doesn't live that kind of that far from us, or from me, I should say. And so we're going to be doing some stuff together in the future. She's part of a group of folks that do a 24-hour live stream for the charity Mind, and I think I'm going to try and kind of sort of do a little sort of feature on the live stream and stuff. And she was saying she's going to show me how to play 40k, and I'll show her how to play some of my games. So yeah, I think we're going to do something together in the future as well. So yeah, that was the way to do it, mate. I just think it was just super nice to speak to folks, and again, obviously, the likes of Mikey and Hellstorm Gang and Georgie and Elliot and Louis. It was just seeing them doing the kind of the live stream setups, the almost kind of mobile sort of event sort of coverage. It was cool to see that as well. So yes, fab group of people. Kirioth and Kirioth was probably the only one I never really got to spend much time with over the weekend. He didn't arrive until the Saturday morning, so everybody else I got a chat to on the Friday night. He didn't arrive until the Saturday morning. Then we never played each other all day. When we sat down for lunch, he was kind of at the other end of the table, just the way I came in a bit late, and there was a seat left. And then when we sat at dinner on the evening as well, there's a pattern here. I was a bit late as well, and I was kind of a bit late coming in for dinner as well. So I sat in the seat that was left, which happened to be kind of at the other end of the table where the Steamforge guys were. So I sat with them for dinner and next to Louis as well. And so I never really got to speak to Kirioth very much. I kind of had a really brief chat with him just before he left on the Saturday night, and we chatted briefly on Twitter as well. But super nice folks. Every single person I would happily kind of work with, shall we say, like from a perspective. I would definitely do some content with them in the future. Frantic says, wow, next thing you know, Marines on your channel. I've never actually I've never played 40k, and it was something we were sat and chatting about at lunch, and I was chatting to the Steamforge guys, and I said, like, Warhammer wasn't my route into like miniature gaming really. For all I kind of got into miniature gaming painting really. The first game I really played seriously was Malifaux, and then War Machine, and then on to kind of Walking Dead and other games and stuff. And so I've had a bit of and I didn't start until my 30s, so like I haven't got that kind of nostalgia of Mordheim and Warhammer Fantasy and 40k 3rd edition and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting that, like, I think I've said before, I had one demo game and the guy basically smashed me off the table and basically made up a load of rules, which I found out later on, and it gave me like a really bad taste. And I've tried to get into 40k later, but I almost feel like I'm so far behind the crowd that I don't have the nostalgia to pull me back, that I always just find something else to play, kind of thing. So it'd be cool to kind of give it a try with somebody like Kerry, who's actually kind of sort of taking me step by step through. This is how the game is. Frantic here, next thing you know, Marines on the channel. Hellstorm Walker said, great to meet you, dude. As you say, good to meet where we might not have otherwise. Absolutely, mate. Yeah, like they say, we wouldn't ordinarily have kind of crossed paths, I guess. I don't come to 40k or AOS events. I don't come down to your neck of the woods very often, so I probably wouldn't have bumped into you at Sanctuary. And our content, I guess, has kind of got different audiences, so we generally wouldn't have crossed paths. But it was an absolute pleasure, mate. Vijay's interested to see how much of Discourse's outrage baiting is put on for clicks. I tell you what, mate. So what I would say about Discourse, because I honestly think that she's kind of misunderstood a little bit. It's not like intentional outrage for outrage's sake, and I think if you look beyond the like, let's be honest, like her stuff is edited to be super fast, and she talks loud and fast, and it's edited to be attention grabbing, which it absolutely works, and that's what you should do. What she says has a lot of substance to it. Like, she's well researched, she puts a lot of effort into it, and I think if you listen to what she says, you don't always have to agree with it. But I think there's a valid argument in there. There's a point of view in there. It's not just like inane ramblings of a man shouting at the cloud kind of thing. When you talk to her, she's just as loud and is just as excited and just as million miles an hour. There's a lot of it in her personality, but she is such a nice girl. Super, super fun. I would happily kind of make content with her any day of the week. She's a really nice person. Where are we up to here? Yeah, VJ says no Marines. I tell you what, if I ever did get into 40k, I don't think I would get into Marines. I mean, I've got some like painted stuff of when I've played Kill Team and stuff. But I'm not really sure I can see me getting into 40k, he says. But yeah, Marines wouldn't be my army, that's for sure. And VJ says, you're not missing anything rules-wise when it comes to 40k. It's not so much about actually, like, sort of wanting to take up 40k and suddenly kind of change and pivot, if you like. It's more about understanding enough about it to have a valid opinion of what's good, what's bad, what do I like, what do I not like. It's more about just kind of having knowledge and experience to be able to talk confidently when a new release comes out, or when there's something that might interest me that I ordinarily wouldn't kind of like look at. It's more just kind of, think of it as research, really, I think. Kat Smith, thank you very much for the new membership there. Awesome to have you on board. Thank you very much. And thank you for the cup of tea as well at the weekend. Bought me a drink, thank you. Lord Novus is saying Discourse is so awesome. I love her channel. It's funny because I guess it's the typical kind of Marmite type thing, isn't it? Some people absolutely love what she does, and some people still watch what she does but then love to hate what she says, kind of thing. Do not be fooled. She is super nice. Moose is saying Marines for 30k. I tell you what, I'll not. Horus Heresy is not my bag, not in the slightest. Where are we up to here? Dave says, rule are cool for me. If I like a mini, I buy it. I tend not to buy many minis, mate, like for games I don't play. I think for all I love painting, I generally paint with the intention of getting them to the table and giving them a game. Even if I only ever play a game once or maybe twice, I still kind of like there's an end purpose to it. There's a reason for painting stuff. But I know what you mean. Like, and generally, I think when it comes to wargaming and events and tournaments, as I mentioned before, I tend not to prep because I just like I know I'm not going to win. I know other people have been playing for much longer than I have. I'm probably painting up the minis that I like the look of. I'm not really going there to try and win and stuff. So in the past, I don't really put the effort in to to get good, if you like. I'm not a tournament player in that respect, but I do love going to events. I love the interaction. I love the chat. I love playing new players. I love a few beers at the end of the day. And that's my bag. That's what I like to do. But with this event, because I didn't have to paint lots and lots of stuff. And I'll be perfectly honest. Like I was like the small channel there, if you like. I was one of the smaller channels, and I did kind of think about it from a point of view of that, you know, like if I finish mid-table here, kind of thing, I'll be forgotten about. I was just somebody that with everybody else I kind of turned up. But if I can manage to pull it out the bag and win it, then I'll get a little bit more 5 minutes of kind of content out of it, and a bit for 5 minutes of fame off the end of it, kind of thing. So there wasn't like a not an ego, if you like, but there was a genuine reason to wanting to kind of try and do well as well. Louis saying, Age of Sigmar, mate, come and join the gaff. Come tournament with me once or twice a month. I have played Age of Sigmar, actually. So I had, or still have, I should say, a Beastclaw Raiders army from way back in first edition AOS. And I did fancy at one point, I did fancy changing and getting a second army, because I actually did enjoy AOS in first edition. Then when second edition came out and they changed all of the objectives to where you win the objective if you got more minis than your opponent at the kind of objective. My Beastclaw Raiders were garbage by that point. I had about 10 models in my entire army. There's no way I was having more models around an objective. So I basically just binned it off, mate. At that point, I kind of decided to tap out. But at that time, I was thinking of like a second army to paint up in the background while I was playing the Beastclaw Raiders and getting some games in and starting to learn them. And then what happened was I kind of drifted away, mate, and I found other games and stuff. But yeah, so I have played AOS. I've been to a few events with the AOS. I actually finished second at an AOS event in a doubles tournament with a local lad. We went up to Scotland and played in a doubles event, and we finished second. So I'm not complete garbage, but who knows, mate? Who knows? You're only at York. We can make that work. We can make that work. Where was it coming there? Lisa's saying, I think the worst part of the creator clash was the divided loyalty I felt I had to show support to so many creators. I think the beauty of it is, mate, is that everybody was cool, and I didn't feel like, I saw the chat coming back with people saying like, come on Vince, you can do it and stuff, and then people saying, come on Andy, you can do it. I didn't feel anything bad about anybody supporting other people. It's cool. Like the whole point of this, like let's put this down for what it was. This was an opportunity to kind of showcase GODTEAR to a lot of people that ordinarily might not get to see it or might not look at the game. And from my perspective, I think it worked. I'm sure Steamforged seemed pretty happy with what happened as well. But what come out of that was that loads of us managed to get together and have loads of fun as well. And so, like, sort of divided loyalties, mate. I'm all right with that kind of stuff. VG says, cool minis will draw them into a game, but if the rule set's garbage, it'll quickly put an end to my interest. Yeah, I like I said before, I tend to paint stuff up with the idea of playing the game, but I don't go into it blindly. I do a bit of research, and I generally think that the game must be half decent before I kind of sink some cash into it. Louis saying, it's literally an excuse to tournament and drink with the lads. Do you know what it is, mate? That was hot. That was kind of the reason I got into miniature gaming and stuff. So kind of as a complete sort of back, I never played miniature gaming when I was younger, really. I did have a copy of Hero Quest that I probably played about 3 or 4 times with my sister, but never really got into miniature gaming. And basically I played sports, I rode motorbikes, I went away to football matches with my mates and stuff. And when the twins came along, my missus at the time was kind of like, well, you're going to have to like knock the bike on the head. Like, I don't want you having like an accident, and we've got 2 young kids, and I can't go away every weekend with the lads like I used to. So a lot of my hobby stuff basically went by the wayside. And I kind of, I walked past the Games Workshop and saw miniatures in the window, and kind of sort of remembered sort of them from being a kid, and thought, well, if I'm going to be stuck at the house a lot, you know, I could do another hobby. But I missed that kind of being with the lads and being away at weekends and stuff. And that was where I got into the miniature tournament scene, and went and played Malifaux on for weekends away. War Machine had a great kind of like audience of guys who like used to go away. I remember going to an event at the Vapnatak racecourse, like the York racecourse, the Vapnatak event, where we went down on the Saturday morning, sort of played a few games on the Saturday, went out boozing in York, got absolutely leathered. It was in January or February. The cars all got snowed in. We had struggled getting to the event on the Sunday and stuff. One guy didn't turn up for the first round because he was hungover, like still like ill from the night before. But what an absolute kind of like blast of a weekend it was, and that kind of stuff reminded me of kind of like the going away with the lads and those weekends away. That's 90% of why I think of why I play games, mate. VJ saying AOS was a good rule set, but it became rather bloated. I'm not as close to it now, mate, if I'm perfectly honest. I don't know how bloated or not bloated it is. Kat says Andy wants to know if any other content creators had someone wearing their merch. Just saying, he says, I didn't notice it, mate. I'll be honest, it was kind of nice to be up there with some. I would suggest there's some big names. I mean, the likes of certainly the Hellstorm guys. Kirioth, Discourse is kind of like, she's on the rise now. I think she certainly kind of gets quite well known. Like, I think some of the Instagram folks maybe like they have their audience, but you don't necessarily, like you folks who mainly spend your time on YouTube might not know the Instagram folks, and the Instagram's folks audience probably didn't have a clue who I was, or maybe some of the other creators. But people like Kirioth and stuff, and Vince, like there's some big names there. So it was quite nice to kind of walk into to the sanctuary and see somebody with one of my merch t-shirts on. Where was it? Yeah, VJ saying certainly got the brand name out there more than it had been, that's for sure. Yeah, it doesn't hurt me, does it? It doesn't hurt. Yeah, Louis saying, yeah, based Selby, York, Hull. That's not too far away, mate, to be fair. Scott saying, excellent, not too far. Yeah. Christian saying, having a bit of chat about. Yeah, Louis, I think it's kind of turned off for links, mate. But let me know. Just if you type it in, mate, and I'll mention it, mate, and make sure that folks know about it. Super Punker Man saying just more Warcry. I don't know what that was in relation to. Type 40 TARDIS says, I'll never forget the 1 GW Grand Tourney I was at. The second the clock hit double digits, my opponent pulls out 2 shot glasses and Jack Daniels. Do you know what it is? The guys I used to play AOS with, one of them used to always take a hip flask with them that had whiskey in it. So he always had that, like, especially on 2-day events, not on the 1-day events. Like, I've been down to a Walking Dead event down at Element Games, and it was only a 1-day event, and it was run by Paul Welsh. Lovely guy, absolutely loving it to bits. And me and my brother-in-law Jason were playing in it, but we said, we'll come down the night before, we'll help you set up, and then we'll play in the event the next day and kind of go home. We'll have an overnight. And we came down, set the event up on the Friday night, might have been the Saturday night, and then me, Jason, and Paul went for like a curry and a few beers in Stockport. Sorry, not Southport, in Stockport. Ended up with a lock-in at the pub down the road. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning by the time we got home, and then the 3 of us had to get up. He was running an event and I had to play in it, and that was a hard day. But like, I love that camaraderie. You like, it's this sounds kind of wanky, but when you're a bloke like in your 40s, it's not that easy to make friends, if you like, like to make friendships and to meet new people. And wargaming is almost like that first hurdle of like, well, you know, we might not be best mates here forever, but at least we've got something in common. And you do meet people that you do hit it off with. And you're not going to hit it off with everybody, but you do meet people you hit it off with. There is an absolute ton of people now in this sort of space that I would consider to be like good friends, and we'd happily kind of like sort of go out and have beers away from gaming as well. Getting munted. Getting munted. V saying Scott's probably the best current offering for tabletop minis. Scott, it's probably. Oh, sorry, talking about Warcry. Yeah, I'm be honest. I mean, I'm not that wrapped up in these kind of like evil GW kind of bad business practices and all that kind of stuff. I'm a firm believer in you buy what you want. You make your own choices, and you can choose to support or not support however you like. And it doesn't mean I don't have opinions on stuff, but I'm kind of like, I'm a little less vocal about that kind of stuff. Warcry, I think, is a great game. I really enjoy it. The other stuff, it's been a mixture of not really being exposed to it, not having any nostalgia to pull me into it. Like, my local group is big into Marvel Crisis Protocol. There's a local gang of people who play like a lot of Mantic games now as well. Like, there are players who play 40k, but I just don't see them. Like, they're at different clubs, they're at different stores, that kind of stuff. Adam Welch says, all this GODTEAR promos worked. I'm well interested. Hope they keep it fresh after time passes. To be honest, mate, I was sitting with three of the Steamforge guys. It's sitting having dinner on Saturday night, and we were kind of just chatting about GODTEAR a little bit, amongst other things as well. And like the way the release model is for GODTEAR is you release a new champion and his followers or her followers or its followers, depending upon what it is, and it's open to everybody. Everybody that plays the game can buy that new release, because there's no faction specific thing to the game. So from a business perspective, from a business model, everything they release is available to the entire player base. It's not a case of like, for example, let's say 40k, for example, because we're talking about it. It's not like, oh, there's new Marine stuff coming out, and everybody that doesn't play Marines goes, well, it's not for me this month. And it's also set up so that it's not going to be like a champion comes out every few weeks or every month. It'll probably be like maybe every 2 months or every quarter or something like that. So there's a nice release schedule, and the way it's set up, if something appears to be a little bit kind of maybe overpowered or a little bit underpowered just because the way there's a meta forming around it, new champions can come in and they will maybe buff some of the other champions that are maybe not quite as powerful at the moment in that current meta, or it might be somebody that comes out and has an ability that really overpowers that really powerful champion, like a certain ability that kind of like stops them doing it, so then the meta changes into something else. I think it's really interesting how that will evolve over time. Louis saying we're mostly mid-table warriors that only turn up to go to spoons till close. You, Louis, are my kind of guy. It's your boy, as you would say. Scott saying I have some Necromunda stuff too, but really not pulled into anything else. Necromunda's never been my thing. I think the rules are just they're a bit sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit crunchy for me. A bit crunchy. VJ says love a good lock-in. You don't get them that much these days, mate, but we certainly did when I was in Manchester, in Stockport I should say. We went to what was it called again? It was called Blossoms, which the band Blossom is called after this pub actually, randomly. And we were just like sitting having a beer, and somebody just come over and went, mind if you need to go out, let us know so we can open the door for you. And it was like, Jesus, what time is it? We might as well stop and have a few more, kind of thing. Straight on the whiskey, I think it was at that point. Sunday Psych, good evening, mate. Congrats to the weekend. Thank you very much. People having a little bit of a chat backwards and forwards. Adam says, for GODTEAR, would you get 3 champions who are just better? Not really, mate. I mean, the way it works out is there are some champions that when they're new, like, people are still working out what their strengths and weaknesses are. So for example, Kaelin at the minute is quite a strong champion. Like, I think a lot of people struggled with her at the weekend because of her speed and about how she can kind of jump around and stuff like that. But one thing that she can't do is she can't go into objective hexes. So if you know how to deal with her by screening her off, like with to be fair, she can move small followers. But if you screen her off with larger followers, or you take people into her who will absolutely just batter her because she's not that strong and like lock her down, there's ways to deal with her. Things like Rangosh is really strong, like from a power perspective, but he isn't that quick and he's not that tough in the grand scheme of things. So there's ways to deal with it. It's almost like I'll probably simplify it by saying it's a bit rock paper scissors kind of thing, but it's everything has a counter. Everything has there's something generally that will, and that's how metas form, where people either take the stuff that's strong, or people take the stuff that is strong against the stuff that's strong, and it's quite interesting how that works. Sunlight says he's chatting on to Vijay there. Christian sharing the link there for Amazon as well. If you are shopping on Amazon, please do use my affiliate link. Certainly helps keep the channel running, keeps the lights on, keeps me in glasses of water. The price of electric now as well keeps the lights on, as they say. VJ says, rule of cool would dictate my champion selection every time. I need a good game mechanics, but given my terrible strategy abilities, picking rules in mind is pointless. I think, to be honest, mate, GODTEAR is the perfect game. I know it's not your bag, but GODTEAR is the perfect game for just rule of cool, because, like, you can just take the ones that you like the look of. And basically play them together, even if they're not the strongest. At that point in time, you're probably just playing for fun anyway. So it's a good choice. Joachim, thank you very, very much there for the super chat, mate. I'm assuming it should come up on the screen. There it is. It would take a little while there. It says, congrats, Andy. A champ needs a cigar or bacon or something else. To be honest, mate, I mean, cigars are expensive, but you know, with the shipping costs of pigs these days, I think bacon might actually be just as expensive as well. But thank you so much for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Thank you, sir. I doth my cap to you. John saying, evening all. He's really enjoyed the games. Thank you very much, he says. Well done. And first time I thought that watching table sports could be a thing. Do you know what it is, mate? I'll be honest. When I watched back Mikey and Louis' commentary, first of all, chef's kiss, fantastic stuff, boys. It was really, really, it did have that kind of esports feel to it. I mean, we were kind of like we were taking the pictures at the end of the day and, in front of the Steamforge banner and all that kind of stuff, and holding up the belt and the trophies and stuff. Speaking of trophies, I haven't showed you my trophy yet. Let me show you what my trophy was. If I can find it. Here we go. This was my trophy. It's got pride of place inside the house at the minute. So that you just get to have a picture of it. But this is so when GODTEAR first came out, there was an early access kit that Steamforge did, and they did a load of metal miniatures that ended up getting kind of re-sculpted a little bit to be plastic for the final thing. But this is one of those original Rangosh metal sculpts, and I absolutely love it. Obviously gold for your top boy, but yeah, awesome. So it's got pride of place up in my little kind of painting room in the house there. So my little boy thinks it's awesome as well. So it's upstairs. And not forgetting as well, which I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Let's go to this one. I also, as part of my prize for being the leg end, I get to sit with the sculptors of GODTEAR and create an alternative sculpt of one of the champions. So I've got a couple of weeks to kind of think about it, while I think Gen Con's on very soon, and the guys are kind of busy with Gen Con. But as soon as they get back, we're going to kind of sit together, I assume like over Zoom or something, and chat through some options. So I need to decide which champion I'm going to choose, and then talk to the guys who know what they're doing. And decide how we're gonna alter it. Bacon wrapped cigars. Would that be smoky bacon? Yeah, that's what Scott just said there. Yeah. So it's like saying GODTEAR looks like a lot of fun, but just bought my way into X-Wing, so that's for me now. Local store had a 25% off sale. Nice one. Yeah, I mean, I'm not here to sell games to you. I'm just here to kind of showcase bits and pieces and let you make your own choices. But yeah, X-Wing. I think X-Wing has a similar kind of esports vibe as well. I think when I've seen that streamed. Mikey saying 2K, mate, not at all, mate, absolutely deserved. And to be fair, this is kind of I generally don't watch kind of like much kind of AOS and 40k content generally, which is why I kind of, you know, we'd never probably would have crossed paths in the past. But the fact that I think that your kind of your tournament report and your streaming was so good, I think I'd quite happily kind of watch just for the chat and the banter and not even be too worried about what's going on in the game. So I will certainly be a more regular viewer for these days. Andrew saying Guild Ball was the next War Machine. This is the next Guild Ball. Well, I think to be fair, they're both rooted in War Machine ethos. I mean, both Rich Loxham and Matt Hart, who are the co-founders of Steamforged, were both big War Machine players. I never really kind of knew them that well, but I think Rich Loxham, was it Matt or Rich? One of the two of them was on what used to be on a War Machine podcast, and that's where I remember them from. So yeah, it might have been Rich. I kind of forget now anyway. But yeah, and Matt was a really good painter. But yeah, so I kind of remember them from my War Machine days. We never played each other. We didn't kind of hang out in the same circles when we went to tournaments and stuff. Because some of the tournaments for War Machine were like 120 players. Like we used to go to the UK Nationals down in Birmingham at the Expo before it moved to the NEC. And there was another weekend event where we had some good nights out. It was one of those things where it was kind of like you knew what you knew where your level was. So after day one, if you were in contention, you were on the booze Saturday night because there's nothing to play for. Ed saying, yeah, commentary makes watching games. Gold Squadron podcast and the crits, is it? Are fantastic at it. Yeah, I'm not familiar with their stuff, mate, but yeah, I assume if they're good, they're good. Sexy Grimgut Lou, yeah. Nipple tassels, the full works. I think we can do that. I'm not sure we'll be able to release it as a model, but I'm sure we can do it. Ice Moon saying, yeah, the casting and stream setup was excellent. For someone that had zero knowledge of the game, I never felt like I was missing any vital info. That's the way to do it, man. Grimgut with a bacon and minion sandwich. Nom nom nom. I'm reading down, some people are chatting backwards and forwards. Vicky says, so do you keep the trophy and hand over the belt when you lose the title? I think that's yet to be decided, mate. I don't think anybody's there's been no mention of handing it back. We might have to chat about that one, I think. Or maybe we have to have the title further north. We'll have the title decider up in the northeast. You know, like when the champion he basically goes to Russia. Rocky goes out to Russia to fight the champion kind of thing, and then you bring it back to America for the rematch. I think that'd be a bit or maybe Tyson Fury. I should be thinking more than Rocky. That's what we'll have to do. We'll have to bring it back to Newcastle for the rematch. Barry saying, great hanging out tonight. It has to drop. Take care, buddy. Thanks for dropping in. VG saying, might as well just get it permanently installed now. That's it. Busey says, will you be holding tournaments in the BlackJack studios? To be honest, mate, you know what it is? I would love to do something here at some point. We certainly have the infrastructure. Space-wise, I think that's probably where it kind of it comes down a little bit. I wouldn't mind doing something like an event elsewhere. Like my kit's all portable. I can kind of do like a stream somewhere kind of thing. Who knows? In the future, I might take a few tips from the Hellstorm boys and do like a bit of a lesser known game, if you like. Sunday says, what's the buy-in cost for GODTEAR? So initially, mate, it's relatively low. Well, not initially, it's relatively low. It is relatively low in comparison. So if you get a starter box, they can be picked up online now relatively cheap. A lot of them are on sale and stuff, like places have them discounted. Starter box will get you the board, the tokens, the rule book, and 2 champions and their followers. Now, the game generally plays at a 3 champion versus 3 champion level, at like event level. But if you're just starting out and you want to learn the game, you can play 1 versus 1. the idea is there are 2 different starter boxes. So if you've got a friend who's interested, if they pick up the other starter box, they've then got 2 champions, you've got 2 champions. That's probably the cheapest way to get into it. And then all you need to do is just pick a champion each, like from the different expansions. And then you've got 3 champions, your opponent's got 3 champions. You can mix and match them, you can play together, you can kind of do it that way. So it's like probably about, even at like RRP maximum list price, you're probably still only talking about 70 quid, something like that, UK prices. But if you look online, there's always plenty of discounts and stuff like that, buddy. From like a US pricing perspective and stuff, I assume that discounts are a similar type thing. Andrew saying he has to be challenged to a title match. Yeah, I will happily be challenged. To be fair, the guys in the GODTEAR Discord group, who are like the more serious players, who play like events and stuff, they did invite me. They had a tournament on the Sunday in Sheffield, which obviously wasn't too far away from where we were on the Saturday. They did invite me down and say, like, do you want to come and play in the event? And it was like, my God, I've got to get home and kind of give my wife a break from chasing a 5-year-old around the house. But I tell you what, I was tempted to, because I was kind of on a bit of a, at that point, everything was still in my head of like, well, I know how everything works now. This is probably not a bad time to play. But I will certainly be making an appearance, and I don't mean that like as in Billy Big Bollocks, like I'm going to make a public appearance. I mean, I will be showing up to a GODTEAR event at somewhere in the future. It'd be nice to kind of like, and this is no disrespect to the folks that were playing at the weekend, but most of us had about like less than 5 games under our belt before the weekend. I'd love to like see just how the game is played differently with somebody that has like seriously been playing it for like 2 years, like, and knows their stuff inside out. I'd love to kind of see the difference. Barry saying Gold Squadron podcast is awesome. Yeah, I'll have to give it a listen. I like to listen to stuff, even for games I don't play necessarily. It's just nice to see what other kind of like content creators are doing, like podcasters and stuff. It always kind of sparks a bit of ideas for me as well. VJ says he's pretty excited to be visiting the BlackJack studios very soon. I tell you what, mate, I'm going to have to give it a bit of a tidy up. It's a bit of a shithole at the minute, if I'm perfectly honest. I've got stuff like when I went down to Steamforge to film, I was packing all my camera gear away into bags and stuff. And then I had to kind of rearrange this stuff. When I took all my GODTEAR stuff inside the house to kind of like decide which champions I wanted, and I put my firefight armies on them shelves. So now there's stuff just like kind of scattered all over the place. Like it needs a bit of a tidy, mate. It will look spick and span by the time you get here, I promise. Tiberius is saying the starter sets are about 35-40 quid. Yeah, I think their list price is about 50 or 60 pound, but I think I've seen them as low as 25 quid in sales and stuff like that before, so you can certainly pick them up. And there's always somebody somewhere that's kind of like selling second hand stuff as well, so you can pick them up at a good price. Scott says he picked up both GODTEAR starter sets and 3 extra champions for 80 quid. There you go, mate. Yeah, so there's bargains to be had. Andrew says, Andy feeling a little cocky after beating the scrubs. I tell you what, mate, I'm one of the scrubs. That's my point. Like, I'm one of the scrubs. I'm not professing by any stretch to think I'm on a different level to anybody else. I had some good dice rolls at the right times on Saturday, and I probably maybe had spent a bit more time kind of learning like about matchups and things like that, which might have kind of helped me out a bit. Adam Welsh says, did you see the new contrast paints from GW today? They look like GODTEAR models. They do a bit, mate, with just the one colour of stuff over them. I mean, we can talk about the contrast paints. I'm a big fan of contrast paints. When I first tried them out at UK Games Expo, when GW were doing like their contrast paint tour before they were released, and I'll be honest, I wasn't massively impressed with them. I think part of the problem was they had a load of primed Space Marines. I don't think Space Marines are the greatest things to demonstrate contrast paints because there's a lot of smooth, rounded surfaces on them. However, fast forward that, I've got all of the contrast paints that have been released. I've actually got two sets of them because I've got a set in the studio here as well, and I've got a set in my hobby room. And I use them on almost every miniature I paint now. I find them a super good way to get a really high sort of pigment colour down as a base coat, and then I kind of build up from that. So rather than putting like lots of thin layers down to kind of get my base coats, I generally tend to use contrast as my base and kind of build up from it. So all of the GODTEAR minis that I had painted this weekend all started with like with contrast paints as their base colors, and then I would kind of highlight up from that. Adam's just saying, how do they mix with other paints? Absolutely fine, no issue. One of the things I hear a lot about the Army Painter speed paints is there's a reaction to it. So once they dry, if you then go over the top of it with another paint, it kind of wets it and reactivates it and makes it like wet again kind of thing. So I've not bothered with Army Painter speed paints because I feel like they kind of do what contrast paints do, and I've already got contrast paints, so I've never bothered with them. But yeah, I love contrast paints. I think there's some fantastic colours. I personally, at this point in time, before the new ones were announced, never really felt like I was missing any colours from the range. Like there's genuinely or generally always something that I can use. But when they've announced all these new ones, I'm kind of looking at it. I don't think it's where I'm going to go out and buy the entire range of them kind of thing. But I might try the odd ones. The purples look good. There's a brown in there that looks like it gives a really nice kind of almost like rusted finish on it. Like almost has like yellowy highlights. That one looks pretty cool to be able to have a bit of play around with it and stuff. So there's a few in there, and I like the look of some of the new washes as well. They look like they'd be they don't look like they stain the models as much as some of the like Agrax kind of stains a little bit if you put it on a bit too heavy. So I'll be happy to kind of play with them and stuff. I mean, it's not the super big announcement we thought it was going to be, because they did kind of like hype's maybe not the right word, but they marketed it, which made it sound like it was kind of something revolutionary. But it's just more paints. So yeah, there we go. VJ says the serious GODTEAR players are going to be on your tail now, mate. To be fair, mate, they've all been a fun bunch. I've been in the GODTEAR Discord group for quite a while actually, just because like when I played the game, like when I reviewed it, I joined and just to kind of find out a bit more about it and things. But yeah, they've all been super nice. They've been really friendly. They've been quite complimentary of my painting and stuff. And yeah, they've been a good bunch. Well, randomly, my laptop's just decided to kind of to die on me there for some particular reason. So I think we're gonna have to go onto my phone. Oh, I think it's shutting down and coming back on again. I'm gonna have to go onto my phone and get the chat. So let's have a little look and see what the chat is. Can't believe I've got to wait for my own blooming adverts to end. There we go. So we turn the volume down. Right. So yeah, we've got the chat here now. My laptop decided to have a bit of a moment. We'll switch it back on and see what happens. Where are we up to? Vijay says, yeah, agree regarding contrast. Oh, there we are. It's back on. Where are we up here? There was something about... Oh, there we go. Andrew's saying there, sorry. Oh, Paul Taylor, good evening, mate. You say, is he a bit late? I'm still here, mate. You're better late than never, that's what I would say. Andrew's saying the new contrast paints look good. VG says it doesn't work for my wife, ain't going to work for him, Dave. Paul says, so what did the other creators think about GODTEAR, and do you think you might try organising something similar with a game that you like? So it's something I've considered, mate. It's something I would like to be able to do. I mean, I think it depends upon the game. There's some games that lend themselves better to that kind of small investment in time, both in playing time and prep time. So something like Dead Zone, for example, I think would work really well with a case of like everybody, if you pick like eight creators, if you like, each creator gets to we draw out of a hat, whoever's number one gets to choose their kind of faction first, and we all choose a different faction. Just paint up a starter box and maybe have like a little kind of Dead Zone kind of event or something like that. I think that there are certain games that lean themselves into this easy to learn, quick to play kind of thing. I don't think it would work quite as well for a game that people weren't familiar with if the game was a little bit too complicated. So I'm kind of looking on my shelf now of the kind of things. I think things like Blitzball works well. I think things like Dead Zone, as I've just mentioned. I think Overdrive, not that hugely dissimilar to GODTEAR. I think that works really well as well. But then a lot of it also comes down to the companies themselves, and do they want to kind of support this thing? Because unfortunately, these things do cost money to put on. You've got a higher sort of venue type thing. You have to put people up in accommodation because they're obviously traveling quite some distance. You have, there's costs involved in doing this kind of thing. So I think it depends upon whether the companies are willing to invest time and money into it, if they see there's some benefit from it. Steamforge obviously did when it comes to GODTEAR, but yeah, I think I would personally, I would encourage companies to reach out and try and do something very similar. I think this was an absolutely great event. I think what Mikey and Louis and the team at Hellstorm Wargaming showed was that if it's put on in the right way, I think it reaches the right audience, and if the right people are invited, it reaches the right audience. I think other companies should kind of look at it and maybe take a bit of a leaf out of that book and say, actually that there's something in this. It creates a little bit of buzz. You've got lots of different communities that might not normally look at our game, looking at this kind of thing. I'd like to see it happen again, and I would absolutely, if anybody asked me to be involved in it, I would love to be involved. Let's have a little look here. VGS in agree regarding contrast in Marines and Stormcast, but what else are they going to demo them on? The poster boys. I think it was just that they obviously have plenty of them, and you always see it, like even on their advertising today, you've seen it. I think contrast paints work really well on high detail like models, and GW make high detailed models. I mean, even Stormcast, I would say, probably have more bits on them. If they'd used like Plague Marines, like Death Guard, for example, there's so much more stuff on them that it was kind of like it would show that how the highlights and recess shading kind of works a bit better, I think. Ian saying Moonstone would work well, but you need to know the game a bit first, I reckon. Yeah, it's kind of it is that kind of thing, mate. I mean, it happens a lot with online stuff, like with online gamers, but it's always the point of entry is like it has to be easy and it has to be relatively quick to learn to play, because the problem you have is and you have to look at this from a business perspective as well, is all the different content creators, generally the ones that you're asking to attend are at a level where they are generally doing this full time, and if you're asking them to invest their own work and time into something, there needs to be some kind of benefit to them as well. So if you're saying, right, well, you need to learn how to play this game, and they're gonna have to take time out of their own work and earning potential to learn the game, then there has to be an element of recompense for them. Now, I'm not saying that people were paid for the GODTEAR event. I certainly wasn't, but like I just mean like at least like kind of covering people's kind of costs and expenses, if you like, for traveling. That's what I mean. And that's why what I'm saying is, when it needs to be something that's relatively quick to learn, you don't want something that's going to take people weeks and weeks and weeks to be able to like get their head around it and stuff, or paint things up. Luke says he'll be picking up several of the new contrasts. Tiberius says, anyone skeptical about contrast paints and haven't airbrushed, give it a go. They're absolutely awesome for an airbrush, mate. Ed saying speed paints are not as bad as people say, but if you have a ton of contrast, they're not going to fill a need. That's exactly where I am, mate. Yeah, absolutely. VGC and Blitzball tournament for the win. If only it was available to purchase for people. And Super Punkin Man saying, speaking of army paint, I just tried their metallic gemstone red. I think it's not a bright enough red. I was hoping for cherry red, not reddish copper. I love Tamiya clear red when it comes to that kind of stuff. It is super, super gloss. Or just putting gloss varnish over the top of a really nice red as well. VGC, yeah, looking forward to finally getting a game in person. Yes, definitely, mate. And kicking off the Tabletop Simulator League. You mean there wasn't a huge prize purse? How are you going to give Connor a run for his money? There was no prize purse, mate. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think the belt's probably worth a few quid. If I had to buy it, it's not worth anything to anybody else if I wanted to sell it. But I won't be selling it. Let's put it that way. So, but like, I think companies who want folks to be able to see their game have to invest some time and money into it, and I don't know whether companies generally have the will to do that. It's almost that kind of catch-22 of we want people to play our game, but we're not willing to to advertise it, if you like. Ben Redmond, you absolute legend, mate. How are you doing? He says, congrats on the win. We've just been talking about your podcast, mate, earlier on. I was just showing it to everyone about one of the reasons why I managed to bring home you know what it is? I'm gonna show it off again. I'm gonna get it back on. Oh, he says banging. We'll get the snap back on the right way as well. For those of you that were late to the chat, this is why we're here. And yes, Ben, I was just saying that basically, thanks to listening to your podcast on loop while I was painting, and I was explaining to everybody about don't you dare laugh at me, Dave Mackay. I was explaining to everybody about how you're different, the different episodes that you've done, the structure of the Shapers episode, the Guardians episode, the Slayers episode, blah blah blah. It gave me a little bit of prior knowledge going into those games with probably, I think it's fair to say, not enough game time, but it gave me some knowledge. Oh, actually, I might as well just wear it, mightn't I? There we go. We'll just wear it instead. Lord Maidson, is this number 3? Please expect more than that before we end this stream. After tonight, I think it gets a bit nauseating at that point, but we're still in them early stages of being able to bask in the glow. It's a little bit like nobody wants to hear about who won the Premier League 3 months later, do they? So I'm gonna enjoy it while I can, buddy. But thank you, Ben, and thank you for your help as well. You might not realise, but you gave me a lot of help, mate, indirectly. Ian says, I'll buy it off you. It's not for sale, mate. It's going to be handed down through generations of BlackJack legacy children. That's what'll happen. Daisy and Tabletop Simulator Mini League. Yeah, what we're talking about, there's a few of us in our Patreon group have been chatting about doing a little mini Tabletop Simulator League for Blitz Bowl. VJ is a huge fan. I've played a few games with him, and I must admit it's good fun. So we were talking about doing that. But yeah, Adam says, what's Ben's podcast? I did mention it earlier on, mate. Let me get it back up on the stream, because I disconnected the cable when my laptop went off there. Oh, there's all the beeps coming back. Let me get it back up on the stream. So there we go. It's the Banner Bearers podcast, mate. And this is what I was saying. So I would recommend listening to episode 8 purely just for my dulcet tones, but ignoring me, this is what I was saying, that basically there's an episode which kind of reviews each of the different champion classes. There's an episode about scenarios. There's some episodes about kind of a little bit of tournament chat about when they've been at tournaments. There's an episode about basically their personal tier rankings of how they sort of grade the different champions. And spoiler alert, there is some kind of variance in them, but there's only really one that they kind of say they probably wouldn't take. And there's a good episode about introducing new players, which might be relevant for folks who are thinking about getting into it, and how's the best way to try and kind of convince. I've got friends who might be GODTEAR curious, and I might be able to try and convince them to play a game. And I think that's really good, because there are some good ways and some bad ways, I think, to kind of almost have that introductory game. And then and I think even Ben will say as well, episode 8 was just perfect. I'm just joking. We were talking about the creator clash. We talked about Jack, the new champion, as well, and we talked about the creator clash prior to the event. So yeah, it was super good. And as I mentioned before as well, Objective Hex was the blog or the website that I used as well, which gives lots and lots of information. Grumpy Son, as you can see here is his name, is a super helpful guy. Kind of pulls together a lot of the online kind of blog posts, and lots of the people from the GODTEAR Discord group and the community kind of help and contribute with different bits of stuff on here as well. But there is so much information here. If you're even the slightest bit kind of curious about the game and you want to understand about how the certain characters play, sort of what's some of the fun bits of it, there's a really good here, a new player start here section, which takes you through to kind of this new player syllabus. and it just explains some of the basics about, like, I was using this one about like turn 0, how to deploy, plot phases and stuff. I'll give you a little example. If I go to this, like how to deploy, there's some awesome stuff. If this actually loads up there, like almost like little kind of what would you do in this situation type stuff. It's just like who goes here, who if you had like a certain 3 champions, who would you put in against Nia? It's just if you're curious about it, or if you've just started playing and you want to know a little bit more about the tactics, please support the guys and girls that put their effort in the background and grow communities for, I wouldn't say new games or relatively new games, but they grow the communities for games that are not necessarily the biggest games around, if you like. And without them, these games would not exist. It would not even be worth Steamforged putting on the effort of a creator clash if it wasn't for the fact that the guys and girls in the God Tier community have kept this game alive kind of through lockdown and stuff by doing a lot of tabletop simulator games, to be fair. So yeah, please do support them. Let's have a little look here. What's this? Who's next? McGregor. He'll do nothing. VG says, after release, support is what really makes or breaks a game long term. Unfortunately, given Kickstarter and stuff like that, it's less common as a lot of stuff just gets cranked out and they move on. Yeah, that's not the case for this one. I mean, to be fair, there's been... here's where I'm testing my God Tier knowledge now. There has been Kira, Luella, Jean... there's been Kaelin, there's been Helena, there's been Maxim, there's been not Lockjaw, Skullbreaker, and who am I missing? Who's this one? Jax. 8. I think there's been 8 more releases since the end of the Kickstarter. Blizzard says 53 watching but only 13 likes. I think there's been more likes, mate. It's probably because when you're watching it doesn't sticks. There's another one as well. Thanks, Ben. 9 releases. It says 46 likes on my one, mate. But I will take more likes. I'm always shilling for likes, mate. Thank you very much. Lord Mason, you mean sports commentators don't mention it when the new season starts? They do, but nobody cares by that point, mate. People only care for a couple of days and then it's all forgotten about. Tasty Brain Drain says the belt will be the legacy of Blackjack Legacy. Well, I tell you what, mate, it's the only thing I've won since I've been doing this channel, that's for sure. Ed, thanks for coming in, buddy. Dave says we'll have to peek on Discord. Got Tabletop Simulator, but barely use it. Yes, mate, it's been super good for obviously me and VJ being able to play games. He lives on the other side of the world. It's awesome for us to be able to play games together. But yeah, as I mentioned before as well, I even managed to get a game against one of my sons who was like away at uni and stuff. I've got GODTEAR as well to kind of get me a game in. Adam says, would Steamforge ever do a collab or on GODTEAR use another IP for a champion? I don't think so. I mean, they do a lot of like sort of video game IP stuff anyway. I think GODTEAR is something they're quite proud of. It's their own like IP, if you like. It allows them for pretty much free reign to create whatever kind of weird and wonderful characters that they want in this GODTEAR world. I think there's more time being invested into like the background, because the background there's background there, but it's intentionally quite kind of loose to allow you to kind of create your own stuff. But I think, like, I was chatting to Richard August, one of the Steamforge guys, on Saturday night, who writes all of their kind of their like role-playing stuff, and he's kind of creative background lead as well on GODTEAR, and he was giving me some little stories and stuff that he's been working on. So yes, I think we'll start to see them coming out at some point. RG, good evening. Thank you very much on the congratulations. Chris Tasty Brain says, crikey, forgot to like the video. Oh, how very dare you, my friend. And Andrew says, "Here now, you won our hearts too." Oh man, I tell you what, mate, you can come back next week. You can come back next Monday and chat again. That would be awesome. I think actually, Discourse and I were potentially considering doing the live stream next Monday together. That's what we chatted about, and I think it'll be an interesting one because, like, I think a lot of the time when we've been chatting, obviously in private, like not on stream and stuff like that, we don't always agree on everything, but I think we can see each other's point of view, and I think there are some things we agree on, but we have different viewpoints on the reasons why certain things are how they are, and it's quite interesting. Like, I think this is not me kind of bigging myself up, but I think I kind of know more about the wider industry. But she has like a legal background and she understands some of like legal implications about doing certain things and stuff. So yeah, it might be super interesting. Dave said, "No, thank you very much for coming in, Dave." Ian says, "When's the deadline for the June painting challenge?" I will have a look, mate. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's on all of the different social medias. So I will be able to find it for you and tell you when it is. He says, while he is frantically searching, not wanting to leave a load of quiet dead air in the background. Here it is. So, May the 30th. The 30th of May was when it started, and it runs until Sunday the 26th of June. So you've got a couple of weeks to enter. So remember, it says there's something for summer challenge, and I said June's a busy month. The kids are on half term here, and the weather should be getting better. So this month's challenge is just paint something. That's all I want you to do. I've done mine. I've painted 6. I've painted 6 GODTEAR champions and their followers. So that will be my entry for this month. So yes, absolutely. Adam says on YouTube. Yes, it'll be on YouTube next Monday, mate. That was the that would be the one. Yeah, Vijay saying he used it more over COVID as well. Plays a lot of his mates with it. And Yellow Belly Tabletop says, Discourse is Marmite. There's nothing wrong with being Marmite. I mean, like, it's okay kind of being, like, sort of quite neutral, if you like, at times. Like, I can be. But I'll tell you what, getting people passionate about what you do by either agreeing or disagreeing with you will grow you a lot faster. She deserves more respect. To be honest, mate, I think she deserves more respect. And like I said earlier on, if you listen to her videos, she puts a lot of time and effort into researching and scripting those videos to have a real point. Like, there's a start, middle, and an end to it. You don't have to agree with everything she says, but it is definitely kind of like there is quality content. It is thought through. It is considered. And it is like, and it's delivered with passion. I mean, you can't say anything fairer than that. Andrew says BlackJack and Discourse Wednesday evening podcast. I think I would love to do a podcast with her, to be honest, because she's super chatty. And when we've been sitting chatting, like, the conversation flows because we've both got different opinions on stuff. I wonder if she was streaming on Twitch tonight. Actually, I wonder if she's up for a bit of a podcast. We could do it as a video podcast though, like, as well, like, so we could sit and do it, like, obviously, like on Twitch or on YouTube or whatever, but then record it as a audio as well. VG says, what Blitzball team do I bring with us playing person? I might have to get a team painted and made before you arrive. I don't even think I've really got anything other than what's in the box, so I might have to be one of those too. Nice one. Well, let me just, for the end of the stream, just because why not? Because it'd be rude not to do it 4 times, just so that Ian keeps count. And I'm sure somebody will at some point will want to. In fact, let me move it so at least I get my logo in. Yes. Adam saying, do a monthly podcast about the gaming scene. Yeah, I'd love to. I'll give her a shout. So yes, folks, look at me, my cool kid with my snapback on and my champion's belt. Joachim laughing there as well. Tasty Brain Drain saying, you've earned it. This will be the last time I ever do this. And I'm not even sure that you'll even see this in the streams anymore. I'm going to put it up pride of place at home, I think. It's a nice little reminder of the weekend and stuff. But I don't think it'll go in the studio anywhere. But yes, I did enjoy the weekend. It's nice to win for a change. I now know what it's like, what it feels like when you win an event, to kind of podium and go and have to stand in front of people where they clap. It's quite nice. VG says, if I appear on the Monday night live stream, does that count as the Patreon supporter podcast? We'll have plenty of time, mate. We'll do both. Don't you worry about that one. And Andrew Fairbanks says, Triple H who? You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Anyway, I think that is the perfect time to end the stream. Thank you, every single one of you, first of all, who supported me over the weekend. It was nice to see you cheering me on. Even James Bray from his holidays was sitting chatting as well in the chat on the stream. So thank you very much for that. Time to do a shoey. What's a shoey? I've never heard of that. And Wayne saying congrats again, well deserved. So thank you very much, folks. I will see you all next next Monday? Yes. But yeah, I've got plenty of content to be getting on with this week. It's going to be a busy week. So yeah, take care, folks. Thank you again for supporting me on the live stream, and thank you for coming tonight. I'm not drinking anything out of a shoe. That's for absolute sure. There's the shoe that you're getting. The shoe. I'm not doing that. There you go. You can have it from a glass. You can have water from a glass. I've got to wear them bloody shoes tomorrow, and it's not warm enough to dry them out. Anyway, take care, folks. I'll see you next week. Nah, I lied. How can I not do it again? I've got to do it one more time, haven't I? Let me just let me stand up and just we got to put it on, haven't we? There we go. That's as much as you get. That's the only Marvel post-credit scene that you're going to get tonight. Thank you very much, folks. Good night.